Hello, guys and gals, and this is part 39 of our reading of Rod Serling's Twilight Zone, 26 Unforgettable Explorations into the Realm of the Supernatural, and it is adapted by Walter B. Gibson. We will go over the copyright information, which should be on your screen right now. It clearly says that, find it in here first. Rod Serling's The Twilight Zone is copyright 1963 by Cayuga Productions Incorporated, and Rod Serling's Twilight Zone Revisited is copyright 1964 by Cayuga Productions Incorporated. All rights reserved. This 1983 edition is published by Bonanza Books, distributed by Outlet Book Company, Incorporated, a Random House company, and the address is there if you want it. This book was previously published as two separate works entitled Rod Serling's The Twilight Zone and Rod Serling's Twilight Zone Revisited. And this was printed and bound in the United States of America, and the Library of Congress information is there if you want it. Okay, in the last book we met Fitzgerald, who has this somewhat interesting ability of seeing the way that people will die. Well, not so much the way that people die, just that he sees people and knows they will die. So, anyways, now he's seeing that Captain Riker, I guess, isn't any relation. This was before Star Trek The Next Generation, so I don't know. Maybe the creators got some kind of inspiration from this story or something. I don't know. But anyways, let's continue with the Purple Testament. That's it then, Riker said. We've got about 22 minutes before we load up on the trucks. Give each platoon a good briefing. Belts, 5 grenades apiece, 6 clips of ammo, no backpacks, good luck. 3 lieutenants filed from the tent. The 4th remained still staring at Riker, who looked up and asked rather sharply, What's the matter, Fitz? There was no reply. Riker ripped down the map, folded it up, and poked it inside the makeshift desk. Fitzgerald's stare remained fixed, but his eyes were going wider, and with good reason. From some unseen source, most certainly not the Coleman lantern, the odd light was bathing Riker's face in a weird glow, identical to the radiance that Fitz had seen on Smitty's face and on the others before him. Now Riker was meeting Fitzgerald's stare. Riker's next question was more pointed than the one before. Do you still think you are well enough to take the platoon, Fitz? Again, there was no reply. I've been talking to Gunther, Riker continued. He thinks you'd be better off with 2 weeks back at division. This one tonight won't take more than a few hours, but it will be messy. Riker paused. Now his eyes showed a widened stare. What's the matter, Fitz? Riker's tone rang with alarm. What are you looking at? Fitz? Riker fairly shouted the name, and it snapped Fitzgerald from his daze. Captain, you better not go. Do you see something, Fitz? Queried Riker, running his fingers down his face. Something odd, like with the others? It's shining on your face, Fitzgerald replied in a hushed tone. Captain, if you go, you won't be coming back. Get your platoon set, Fitz. You've only got about 15 minutes. Then you're going after what I saw? Why not? Demanded Riker. If I'm due to get it, that should be it. No matter how I try to duck it. But I won't get it, Fitz. You're going to find that this illusion stuff of yours is just coincidence, which is what we should have labeled it in the first place. I'll see you at the truck, Fitz. Fitzgerald started to say something, then he set his lips grimly and left the tent. Riker looked at his watch, picked up his gun belt, hooked it on, and reached for his helmet. He took the .45 from its holster, spun the cartridge chamber, and replaced it. Again, Riker glanced at his watch, wishing time would move faster. He took a wallet from his pocket and drew some pictures from it, studied them, and put them on the improvised desk. As an afterthought, Riker took a signet ring from his finger and used it to weight down the photos. Then he strode from the tent without looking back. Lines of soldiers were already climbing into trucks, ghostly figures, even to the lines of soldiers were already climbing into trucks, ghostly figures, even to the clanking sound that might have been special chains that were actually the rattle and clash of fighting equipment. As Captain Riker eyed the scene, he saw Lieutenant Fitzgerald stride toward the trucks, where a squad of men awaited him. One by one, Fitz studied their faces, and to Riker's amazement, they seemed to be inviting the rest. Oh, sorry. One by one, Fitz studied their faces, and to Riker's amazement, they seemed to be inviting that test. Some tried to outstare Fitz, almost as Riker had. Others turned away uneasily. Now Riker had the answer to two things that had been bothering him: Fitzgerald's silence since Smithy's death, and a growing tension among the men of Riker's entire company. The hospital orderly had heard enough to know about the power that Fitzgerald didn't want. The other patients in Smithy's ward had seen enough to verify it. Captain Gunther had also talked out of turn in his capacity of medical officer. Even though he hadn't realized it, in merely discussing Fitz's aberration, Gunther had advertised the power that Lieutenant Fitzgerald honestly believed he possessed. The thing was reaching a crux as Riker approached. Apparently Fitzgerald hadn't seen a lighted face in a truckload of GIs, and they weren't willing to let it go at that. Now that the secret was out, they thought that the gifted lieutenant was becoming reluctant to display his psychic ability. Actually, the case was just the opposite, as Captain Riker could personally testify, but that didn't help the present situation. One young soldier, a youngster named Freeman, suddenly blurted out exactly what the rest wanted to say. Captain Riker arrived close enough just in time to hear what he said. "What about it, Lieutenant?" Freeman's eyes were frantic as they met Fitzgerald's. "Everyone says you can tell. Everyone says you know who is going to get in and who isn't. How about it, Lieutenant? Give us a break. It ain't fair, you knowing and not telling us." Riker cut in on that sharply and hard with all the authority of a company commander. "You, Freeman, knock it off." The kid who had dared to demand an answer from a lieutenant wilted suddenly when challenged by a captain. No longer was Private Freeman the spokesman for a whole platoon, including corporals and sergeants, who would gladly have said their piece. Once questions started to be answered, Captain Riker wasn't going to let it reach that stage. If Captain Riker had given the command eyes right, he could have accomplished more. His mere order, "knock it off," snapped practically the whole platoon to attention. They knew right away why Riker was the company commander and Fitzgerald a lieutenant. They forgot Fitzgerald's power of naming victims who were sure to die at his mere say-so, and who would wilt if they heard such a pronouncement. Only two men did remember, Captain Riker and Lieutenant Fitzgerald. Only 15 minutes before, Fitzgerald, who could see the light, had pronounced doom on Riker, but Riker hadn't wilted then, and he wasn't wilting now, nor was Fitz expecting him to do so. Along with the eyes that turned towards Captain Riker, the company commander, were those of Lieutenant Fitzgerald, his subordinate. "Hear this," declared Riker. "Someone started a wild gag, and whoever did is going to get burned for it. Nobody in this company is a mind reader. That includes Lieutenant Fitzgerald." His eyes met Fitz's, and he paused until all the rest had time to recognize that fact. "How about that, Lieutenant?" Fitz held the gaze briefly, then let his eyes drop. "That's right, sir. Okay, boys." Riker swung to the GIs. "Let's hop." Hop they did, into the trucks that lumbered away in procession, bound for a rendezvous on the Pasig River, from which some might never return, or from which one might never return, and could be Captain Phil Riker. Um, that one was Captain Phil Riker. It happened on the Bailey Bridge. The company moved forward to spearhead the attack, hoping that the guerrillas had fulfilled their part. Apparently, they had, for there was no sign of an opposition as the American troops approached the bridge, only to hesitate until one man moved forward and waved the other on. The man was Captain Riker, and for the moment he was an open target for half a dozen guns triggered by enemy snipers. Riker sprawled under the sudden volley. Instantly, the men of the lead platoon responded with rifle fire, then charged across the bridge, hurling grenades as they came. The miserable enemy resistance subsided as suddenly as it had flared up. Complete silence reigned along the riverbank. Reigned. A silence of which, unfortunately, Captain Riker formed a part. Lieutenant Fitzgerald took over, and the operation continued as Captain Riker had mapped it. Soon they were joining forces with the Filipino guerrillas, who had already completed their mop-up except for the new die-hard Jap sharpshooters still stationed on the riverbank. It was early morning when the trucks returned to the encampment, bringing back a smiling, laughing crowd of soldiers, who for once had experienced a comparatively easy time. There were moments, though, when faces went glum at the thought of one man who had needlessly sacrificed himself in order to trigger the attack, Captain Phil Riker. But had it been so needless? The one man who might have answered that question was Lieutenant Hugh Fitzgerald. The lieutenant ordered a sergeant to take charge of the platoon. Then, in a numbed, mechanical way, Fitz entered the company commander's tent and stopped before the crate that served as desk. From his pocket, Fitz brought out a chain with 2 dog tags and laid it alongside the ring and photographs. He sat down and stared at the desk with hollow, hopeless eyes. The tent flap opened and Colonel Lloyd Archer, commanding officer of the regiment, stepped in. As Fitzgerald started to rise, Archer waved him down. "At ease, Fitz. I just came along to congratulate you boys on a job well done. The odds fell our way, sir. Those guerrillas knocked out the guns, and we should have walked right on across the bridge without losing a man. Instead, we lost the best man we had." "I know." The colonel picked up the dog tags and the ring, then studied the photographs. "Too bad for Riker's wife and his 2 fine sons. But why did he leave these things here? Did he know somehow that he wasn't coming back?" "Yes, Colonel, he knew." Fitz blurted out the words. "Riker knew because I told him, and I told him because I saw it." The tent flap opened again, and Captain Gunther entered to receive a nod from Colonel Archer. "Some orders have come through on you, Fitz," said Gunther. "You're to go back to division. They'd like to look you over. It'll be a nice couple of weeks' rest. Better pack your gear." From Gunther's anxious look, it was obvious that he was ready to call in a squad of men in case Fitz offered objection, but he had none. Okay. "It's better I should go," Fitz decided. "Better after this." He gestured to the desk, as though to emphasize Riker's absence. "I may as well tell you that I saw it again, this time on Riker's face. You'd believe me now, Doc, if the captain could only be here to tell you the same. Only he can't be, because that would mean that I was wrong. That's how the whole thing defeats itself. Somehow I get a strange power. For what good? Only to tell someone something that they shouldn't know. I saw that light on Riker's face, and suddenly I knew. I saw it. If he'd only stayed here. Well, I guess he knew it wouldn't be any use. They'd have bombed the camp because he was sure to get it. I knew that from the light that was I knew that from the light, and when I shut my eyes, it was like closing a book, a purple book, like a book I heard mentioned somewhere else, somewhere once. He pressed his hand to his forehead. Odd how it comes to mind. A book called the Purple Testament. Fitz swayed slightly as he started for Captain Gunther. Oh, as he stared from Captain Gunther to Colonel Archer, then back again. He steadied, snapped to attention. I'll go pack my gear. Silence clung to the scene after Lieutenant Fitzgerald left. Musingly, Colonel Archer said, "A Purple Testament. It sounds like a quotation from somewhere. But, like the light Fitz talks about, it must be very real to him. Do you think he can get over this hallucination, Doctor? Only when he gets someplace where he won't be looking at people he thinks are due to die. Maybe we'll be that way back at division. Let's hope so." In his own tent, Lieutenant Fitzgerald had finished shaving and was about to pack the last of his gear. He took one look into an old glass mirror. As he was lifting it from the nail where it hung, suddenly a glint came to his widening eyes, but it was slight compared to the glow that spread over his face. The light brightened to the intensity of a sunburst, playing on Fitz's features like a spotlight. It was then that the mirror dropped from his nerveless fingers and shattered completely. When Fitz looked down at the fragments, they scintillated like diamonds, and he could visualize his own face gazing up from amid that unquenchable iridescence. Fitz's eyes closed, and the light turned purple, shaping itself into a book that was closing too. Suddenly a voice jarred Fitz from his reverie. "Lieutenant Fitzgerald, is this your bag, sir?" The speaker was an ambulance driver standing by the open flap of the tent. Fitzgerald nodded. "That's my bag. You can put it into the ambulance. Whenever you're ready to go, sir. We're all set." Fitzgerald followed the driver to the ambulance, where Captain Gunther was ready with a parting handshake. "It's for the best, Fitz," Gunther assured him. "Soon you'll be where you won't have to be looking at people and worrying about whether they are going to die." "I know that, Doc. How well I know it." Fitzgerald's tone of solid conviction left Gunther a bit puzzled. He watched Fitz climb into the seat beside the driver, who was talking to a sergeant standing beside the ambulance. "You're going back to division?" the sergeant was asking. "You're taking the Cavite Road." I've got to, Sarge. The highway bridge is out. "I know that, so I'm telling you to take care on the Cavite Road. The engineers think they spotted some mines a mile up the line. They haven't had time to dig them out, so stay close to the shoulder." "Thanks, Sarge, I will." The driver turned to Fitzgerald with a friendly grin. "It's only a couple of hours' drive to where we're going, Lieutenant. We'll be there before we know it." "Yes," replied Fitz. "I know we will. Sometimes a couple of hours seems a couple of minutes." Fitzgerald knew because the driver's grin looked sickly. Not that it wasn't pleasant in itself, it was the odd light that had come over it, a flickering light that distorted the driver's features, giving them a pallor of death. But as it intensified, the slow broadening of the smile gave it a happy expression. He was in a hurry to get somewhere, this chap, and now the brilliance of his face was as vivid as Fitzgerald's own reflection at the time when he dropped the mirror. There was no use in troubling the driver with talk of things that had happened or other things that were sure to happen, and soon, a few minutes more or less, would not matter. Fitz was wondering now if his own face had retained that effulgence and his eyes that his eyes alone could see. He took advantage of the ambulance's hard, sudden swerve into the highway to lean heavily the sergeant's way and take a quick look in the car mirror. Fitz had guessed right. The radiance was still shown from his features. Soon there would be another swerve within a mile or so, and the driver would hit the shoulder as the sergeant had advised. That would give Fritz another glance of his own face and the drivers to see if they still had glowing no, had growing golden glow that seemed to emanate from another world than this. Probably they would have, for Fritz had never known the strange radiance to vanish once he had seen it, at least not while life continued. So he shut his eyes, waiting for the swerve to come. He knew it would be a big one, but not big enough. Yet Fitz was satisfied, for this was the last time he would have to undergo the torment of viewing his fateful brilliance, and knowing too well what it meant. Those heavy eyelids closing were like the covers of the purple book, its hue due to a blending of that vivid light and the darkness that came when Fitz's eyes closed, a mingling like the twilight between day and night, each prophetic in its own right. For together they told that day was ending and that night would soon begin. Back by the tents, Captain Gunther was watching the ambulance as it dwindled beyond a curve a half a mile away and approached the sector where the engineers had so recently knocked off work. The medical officer was still pondering over those parting words when Fitz's emphatic phrase, "How well I know it." Over by one of the tents, a boy with one arm in a sling was playing a harmonica with the aid of his other hand. A young soldier looked up at Gunther, turned his way, and he gave the captain a smile, without missing a note on the harmonica. That was the way with all boys in Fitzgerald's platoon. They were like Smithy and others who had gone before. They just wouldn't quit until their moment had come. Maybe they figured that Fitz, too, thought that way. Whatever the case, his moment came right then. There was a distant sound like a heavy clap of thunder. The harmonica player cut off his tune and stared up at Captain Gunther, who had halted in his tracks. The boy's voice strained. "Did you hear that, Doc?" "I heard it," acknowledged Gunther. "Maybe it was just thunder. Storms come up quickly here. Go on with that tune. You're doing very well." But Gunther knew it wasn't thunder. Soon everybody in the company knew it. They learned that Lieutenant Fitzgerald wouldn't be coming back to take over the command in place of Captain Riker. An enemy mine planted too close to the shoulder of the road had done it. That night, Captain Gunther expressed his real thoughts to Colonel Archer, but only as a sidelight of his medical report. "Fitz must have seen it coming to those others," Gunther said in a solemn tone, "for he saw it coming to himself. He told me as much in just that many words. I know." Archer reached for a well-thumbed volume on his desk. "I found that quotation of his. It's from Shakespeare, Richard III. It says, 'He has come to open the purple testament of bleeding war.' That's that. That's all." That was all for Lieutenant Hugh Fitzgerald, a company 1st Platoon. The Purple Testament was closed. Lieutenant Fitzgerald had found the Twilight Zone. And we are done with the Purple Testament. We'll now start the Ghost Train. We still have some time. Pete Dunning swung from the Upstate Parkway and pulled in beside the Woodland service station, where a neon sign said Canteen. From behind the wheel, Pete gave Bert Carey a solid elbow to the ribs and told him, "Wake up, coffee break." Bert opened his eyes, staring at a blanket of whiteness that loomed in front of him, and queried, "Where are we? Going up the Iron Mountain ski lift already?" "That," Pete informed him, "is a windshield. The wiper needs a new pair of blades because the snow is coming down in big, beautiful blobs. So while the serviceman is fixing the windshield wiper, we'll go to the canteen and have coffee." They went in the canteen, but only Pete had coffee. For the coin machine, from the coin machine, Bert settled for milk, saying it would help him go to sleep again, and adding that this time he would take the back seat so that Pete couldn't wake him up so easily. Pete meanwhile asked the manager of the service station which was the shortest way to Iron Mountain. We're going to have to stop this here, I believe, and we will find out more about the ghost train next time. If you like this content, make sure we have been reading, from Rod Serling's Twilight Zone, 26 Unforgettable Explorations into the Realm of the Supernatural. Give me just a second. There. I had to make a note here. 26 Unforgettable Explorations into the Realm of the Supernatural, and this is adapted by Walter B. Gibson. If you like this content, make sure you like and subscribe, ring the bell so you know I upload. Also, want to support me in any way? If you want to join the Discord server, all information will be in the description below. And as always, thanks for watching, everyone, and have a great day.